2001 was a great year for Monkey Ball. It was the year we saw the inception of the series itself, with the first Monkey Ball game being made available for Naomi arcade cabinets, closely followed by the storming success of the significantly more super counterpart, launched alongside the GameCube. As an added bonus, Nickelback dropped their hottest album so far, Silver Side Up, expertly crafted specifically to listen to alongside Super Monkey Ball gameplay. With that fact in mind, I'm pretty confident in saying that to most people's knowledge, these two games are the only forms of Monkey Ball related optical media released that year. I bet there's still a fair few of you that didn't even know Monkey Ball was an arcade game before it came to consoles, though I have spoken about it to an extent in previous videos. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm now here to inform you that there was actually something else released that year, as late as the 5th of December. The Super Monkey Ball musical album, available on compact disc and published by SEGA itself, Ei-Ei-Poo. I'll be honest, I need to give credit where credit's due, because I hadn't got any idea this CD even existed until about a year ago, so a massive thanks to Redaxian Skies, or Sky High, for bringing this to my attention in the comments. Immediately after finding out about this, my mind was set on getting one of my own, which I knew full well wouldn't be an easy task, considering I don't live in Japan, nor do I have the funds to fly there every video that I make. But with a little bit of ingenuity, I managed to land one in my flat for a pretty fair price, and if any of you watching are interested in doing the same, I know how you can probably do so fairly easily, though I'll get into that later in the video and discuss the CD itself first. So here it is, Ei-Ei-Poo. There weren't any good quality images of the album artwork that I could find online, so I decided I'd try scanning them in myself. On the inside we of course have the actual disc, featuring a red eye giving a thumbs up, as well as the name of the album and a list of the 5 tracks featured on the CD. There's also a pretty massive sticker of the album artwork, but without the album name and various other text seen on the cover. Rest assured, I'll be saving this sticker and not actually sticking it anywhere. On the other side of the cover is a couple of photos of 𝐃𝐞𝐬𝐬𝐭𝐢𝐨𝐧, who's credited as the performer on both tracks 1 and 2. All I can say is Mimi best be careful, cause Ei-Ei looks as though he fancies the pants off of her. On the back of the cover is another list of the tracks on the album, and what I can only imagine must be the lyrics to track 1 and 2. There's also a brief introduction to the 4 characters, and an advertisement for the game itself, for the 0 people on the planet that bought this CD without already knowing about the video game. So, onto the music itself. Regrettably, these songs are all copyrighted, so I can't just play them all for you in their entirety in this video. What I will do is play just a few seconds of each and hope that my video doesn't get owned by the big wiener of YouTube copyright claims. To be honest, it might be a bit of a stretch calling this thing an album. The CD only has 5 tracks, with both 4 and 5 being instrumental versions of 1 and 2, so really only 3 tracks of interest. Track 1, titled Ei-Ei-Poo, should definitely sound familiar to some of you. For those who don't already know, exclusively to Japanese copies of the original Super Monkey Ball, the song Ei-Ei-Poo would play upon startup, along with an intro cutscene set to the music. This absolute corker can still be found in the game files of both the US and PAL versions, but it's sadly not possible to hear it played in-game. And track 1 of the CD is, well, just a different rendition of that, but with actual lyrics, performed by 𝐃𝐞𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿. Here's your clip. Unfortunately, I can't speak a word of Japanese, so I can't tell you what the song's about, but I'm jamming nonetheless. I'm guessing it's probably something to do with monkeys, balls, bananas. About the only thing that I do know is that there's lots of onomatopoeia, and the same goes for track 2, Ai-Ai-Ya. Unlike track 1, this is a completely original song exclusive to the CD. Again, I can't speak any Japanese, but based on the title, a good guess is probably that it's a song about Ei-Ei. That's also what Sky High said, so you bloody well best be right, bucko, else you've made me look quite the fool. Here's your clip. massive. Track 3 is easily my favourite on the album. It's the closest you can really get to a commercial release of the Super Monkey Ball soundtrack, being a medley of some hand-picked tracks from the game itself. Each new track starts out with a voiceover clip from a Japanese announcer, who I assume is describing the area of the game where the track is played. He speaks a few words of English before switching over to speaking Japanese, which, funnily enough, is pretty consistent with the Japanese version of the game. Clocking in at almost 8 minutes long, Ei-Ei's Round and Round Groove Adventure is a good contender for the world's longest groove. And here's your clip.
Groove 5 minus 30 degree 暑すぎたから今度は温度を下げようというわけで今度は雪のステージだよ寒がりな人は跳ね回って温まろう
As I said before, tracks 4 and 5 are simply instrumentals of 1 and 2, so not so much to talk about regarding those two. Right, for those of you curious about how I managed to acquire one of these coveted CDs for myself, and how you can too, please allow me to explain. I started out by simply searching for the album on eBay, as well as just on Google to see if there were any listings under the shopping tab. Sadly, nothing of use. I tried search terms in both English and Japanese, but mostly came up with only a few websites that had either information about the CD, or had the CD listed but marked as out of stock. I then tried searching again, except this time using a VPN connected to Japan. Using this method, I managed to find some for sale on amazon.co.jp. The item didn't have an image and was entirely in Japanese, so I sent a link to a Japanese-speaking friend of mine who confirmed it was the correct item. This all seemed good and well, but even using a VPN, I knew I wouldn't be able to make a purchase from amazon.co.jp, since my card would be declined upon checkout. I decided I could maybe get around this by simply changing the URL from .co.jp to .co.uk, so I gave it a shot, and sure enough, it came up with a listing. Open square bracket exclamation mark. Finally, an English translation of the CD title. Only taking the mick, but this is actually what the item name showed up as after changing the URL. At this point, I wasn't sure whether I was even looking at the same item anymore, so I took a look at the names of the sellers on the Japanese page as well as on the English one, and they seemed to match up somewhat. I also made sure the sellers listed stated that they would ship internationally, and despite having some doubts, I decided to take the risk and place my order. 16 business days later, and there it was! Perhaps the most obscure and interesting item I can gladly say is now a part of my Monkey Ball collection. Thanks for watching everyone, cheers.